If someone had asked me that morning how my week was going, I would have said, not bad. I installed a new water filter and finally beat level 312 in Candy Crush. You know, milestone stuff. Nothing remarkable. Nothing tragic. Just another Thursday on Earth. And then, the universe decided to stir the pot. It started with a text from my buddy Mason. Bro, check your Facebook. Now, no context. No emoji. Just the kind of digital tone that makes your stomach drop into your shoes. I was mid-coffee, standing in my kitchen in socks and boxer briefs, staring at the fridge like it owed me money. I took a sip, unlocked my phone, and opened the app. There it was, like a digital slap. A group photo, 6 people wide, taken in Santorini. The kind of vacation photo you print on a canvas and hang above your couch to convince guests you're cultured. And right there in the middle, wearing my t-shirt, my favorite navy one she always borrowed, was my wife, Elise. Smiling. Happy. A drink in one hand. A man's arm draped around her shoulder like he'd owned the lease since spring. The tag read, Sunset vibes with my favorite people. Hashtag blessed, hashtag squad goals, hashtag vacay mode. The person who posted it? Not Elise. Some woman named Kiera I vaguely remembered from Elise's office parties. She must have tapped the wrong tag, or just didn't care. Either way, I saw it. And when I tapped the photo, the tags popped up like ghosts whispering secrets. There was Kiera. There was Dylan, apparently the human shoulder accessory. And there, right above Elise's head, like a cruel joke, Elise wore 2 hearts. 2 hearts. I stared at that heart emoji for a solid 5 minutes. Funny how one little icon can detonate your reality. But I didn't text her. I didn't call. I didn't rage. Instead, I stood in that kitchen, let my coffee go cold, and laughed. Not the funny kind. The you've got to be kidding me kind. The laugh of a man who just realized the universe had been rehearsing this moment behind his back for months. I checked the date of the post. Uploaded yesterday. She was due back tonight. From her work trip to Seattle. I spent the rest of the day in a very specific kind of silence. The kind that follows a controlled demolition. You know the building's gone, but the dust hasn't settled yet. That was my living room. Me, a cold mug of coffee, and a world I no longer recognized. Elise had left 4 days ago. Told me she had team-building seminars in Seattle. A leadership retreat, complete with hiking and digital detoxing. Her suitcase had rolled out the front door with a Patagonia windbreaker and a kiss on my cheek like everything was fine. I even told her, don't forget to bring back one of those airport mugs with the city name on it. You know, the ones we collect. She smiled and said, of course. Seattle will look good next to Chicago. That was the last time I saw her before she boarded a plane, apparently not to Seattle. And the mug? Well, I suppose Santorini doesn't sell those in the Seattle terminal. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry, either, not my style. Instead, I did what any sensible man does when his marriage gets sucker-punched by an emoji on social media. I made a sign. A white poster board, thick block letters in permanent black marker. Welcome, tourist. The apartment is no longer yours. Underneath it, I drew a little broken heart. Tasteful, subtle, borderline polite. I even practiced holding it in the mirror, angling it just right for maximum impact. Not because I was feeling dramatic, but because I knew this moment would be burned into her memory forever, and some part of me wanted it framed in shame. Then I called a locksmith. Changed every lock in the apartment. I boxed up her stuff, clothes, makeup, travel journals full of meaningful quotes she never lived by. I laid them gently in the hallway closet, like a museum exhibit titled The Life You Threw Away. She was due to land at 4:37 p.m. I got to the airport at 4:15. Wore my best jacket, brushed my beard, even bought a little espresso just so I could sip it while holding the sign, like this was all just a casual Thursday for me. People kept glancing at the sign. Some chuckled. One guy nodded like he'd seen the same war zone. I felt oddly calm, like the hard part was over, and all that was left was the curtain call. And then I saw her. Elise. Hair braided back in that vacation style she always did. Skin sun-kissed. Rolling her suitcase with one hand. Scrolling through her phone with the other. She didn't even see me at first. But when she did, her smile cracked mid-step. She stopped walking the second her eyes hit the sign. You could see it, like a wire in her brain short-circuited. First came the confusion, the slow blink. Then came the dread, the micro-frown, the parting of lips like she forgot how to breathe. And finally, the realization. She glanced around like she was hoping anyone else was holding that sign. But nope, it was just me, her husband. The guy she'd kissed goodbye 4 days ago while packing sunscreen and betrayal in the same bag. I didn't speak. I didn't wave. I just stood there, calm as a monk, espresso in one hand, truth in the other. She approached slowly, dragging her suitcase like it suddenly weighed more than her guilt. When she stopped in front of me, we were eye to eye. That close-up view gave me everything I needed. Her pupils were dilated. Not from excitement. From panic. "Logan," she started, voice soft, like we were about to have a quiet chat about groceries or Netflix. I nodded toward the sign. "Like it," I said. "Made it myself. Very DIY. She didn't laugh. Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. You could practically hear the excuses dying in her throat. Then, right on cue, came the weakest possible defense. "It's not what you think." I tilted my head, amused. "Really? Because I think it's you, in Greece, wearing my shirt, hanging on some guy named Dylan like he's the new leaseholder of your affection." She swallowed. "Logan, I was going to tell you. I cut her off, gently. "You already told me. Just not with words. You told me when you stopped looking at me. When you started laughing at your phone more than my jokes. When you chose another time zone over our marriage." She looked like she wanted to cry. I didn't care. I nodded toward the exit. "This is where your new life starts. Good luck with the squad goals. The locks are changed. Your things are boxed. The apartment is no longer yours." And with that, I turned and walked away. But here's the thing. That wasn't the end. No, that was just the reveal. The revenge? Oh, that part was still loading. You ever watch someone try to run after a train that already left the station? That's what she looked like in the rearview mirror. Elise didn't chase me, not literally, but her eyes did. Watching me walk away like she couldn't figure out which version of me this was. Because this version? This wasn't the husband she left behind. This was the man she created in the wreckage. By the time I got back to the apartment, the locksmith had already texted to say the job was done. All new deadbolts. All new keys. All new rules. I let myself in and stood there for a moment, staring at the echo of what used to be our home. Our wedding photo was still on the mantel, smiling like nothing had gone wrong. A relic now. I took it down, slid it into the box labeled Elise, Miscellaneous, and replaced it with a framed quote that suddenly felt very appropriate. Some people leave, and that's the best part of their contribution. The boxes I packed for her were all stacked neatly by the hallway closet. Clothes. Shoes. Travel souvenirs from trips I now had to mentally retcon. A jar of beach sand labeled Maui 19 sat next to a framed photo of her and me with sunburnt noses and fake grins. I left it all untouched. I didn't break anything. That would have been too dramatic. No, I wanted everything preserved. Unbroken. Unbothered. Just like she wanted our marriage to look. Now let's rewind for a second. You're probably wondering how we got from I do to adios. And trust me, I've been asking myself that same question for months. The truth is, Elise had been preparing her exit long before Greece. You don't just hop into a vacation love affair unless the runway's already been cleared. And she cleared it. All right, emotionally, physically, financially. Ah yes, the finances. That's where it gets fun. See, while Elise was sipping ouzo on a balcony with Dylan the discount Romeo, I was digging. Not out of jealousy, no, jealousy's for amateurs. I was digging because something didn't sit right. Her phone started getting mysterious lately. Always on silent. Always face down. Password changed. Red flags flapping like they were in a hurricane. But what tipped me off wasn't the phone. It was the Amex bill. 2 weeks ago, she asked me if she could borrow my card to buy a new carry-on. Said her old one had a broken wheel. I said sure, marriage is about trust, right? Wrong. That carry-on cost $129. But the bill came back with a $628 charge from Lysandra Sweets. I Googled it. Greece. The receipt even included a couple's spa treatment and a bottle of vintage wine delivered to the room. She didn't even try to hide it. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a fling. It was a plan. Elise had been nesting in betrayal and furnishing it with my credit. So I started documenting. Quietly. Strategically. I went full forensic accountant with the emotional stability of a chess player. Every transaction. Every social media tag. Every forwarded email from airline confirmations she forgot to delete from our shared inbox. She was sloppy. I wasn't. By the time I showed up at the airport with that sign, I already had a full portfolio printed and stored, copies of receipts, screenshots of Instagram DMs between her and Dylan. Thank you, Kiera, for tagging her with the enthusiasm of a Labrador on espresso, and hotel confirmations with Mr. and Mrs. Dylan Hart under special requests. She used my last name for their fake honeymoon. The gall. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. And revenge? Revenge thrives on focus. So I called my lawyer, Julia, a friend from college who owed me a favor after I helped her move 3 times without ever making her buy pizza. I gave her the full rundown and dropped the word adultery like it was a lit match. She didn't flinch. She just said, "Good. Let's take her for everything she thought she could walk away with." That night, I sat on the couch, solo for the first time in years, and poured myself a glass of whiskey. I didn't toast to freedom. I didn't toast to revenge. I toasted to clarity. And then, just as I finished the last sip, my phone buzzed. "Elise, Logan, please. We need to talk." I stared at the screen, watched the typing bubbles pop up, disappear, come back. She was either writing a novel or having a meltdown. Probably both. Another message followed. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Can we meet? Just to talk." I didn't reply, because my next move wasn't going to happen in texts or tearful airport reunions. It was going to happen in paperwork, in silence, in the slow, surgical unweaving of everything she thought she could keep. Elise had gambled on a new life. She just didn't realize I'd already cashed out if Elise thought a few sad texts and a missed call were going to fix this. She was in for a plot twist with her name on it. I didn't reply to her messages. Didn't even open them. That little read receipt? That's a kindness I wasn't in the mood to give. The next morning, my lawyer Julia met me at a coffee shop down the street from her firm. She was already at a corner table with her laptop open and an expression that said she'd skipped breakfast and was ready to ruin someone's week. "Adultery in this state still counts for something," she said, sliding a file across the table toward me. "And since you never signed a prenup, that means we've got leverage. With these receipts, those DMs, and the hotel records you gathered, she's not walking away with anything but embarrassment and a carry-on." I sipped my coffee and smiled. "Oh, she left that carry-on behind too. It's sitting by the door. Still smells like Greek wine and regret." Julia didn't laugh. She was in full war mode. "Look, if she wants to negotiate, great. We'll play nice. But if she wants to get clever, I'll make sure the only thing she gets in the settlement is her maiden name and a bill for court fees." Now, you need to understand something about Elise. She's not used to losing. She's the kind of woman who could convince a cop to lower a speeding ticket just by adjusting her tone. She had the art of control down to a science, smiling sweet, crying on cue, charming people into thinking she was the misunderstood one in every story. But this time, the script didn't work. Because she wasn't just dealing with a broken husband. She was dealing with a focused one. A few hours after my meeting with Julia, Elise finally got bold enough to come back to the apartment. Well, try to come back. I saw it on the Ring camera while I was at the gym. She stood at the door in her designer sunglasses, suitcase beside her like she was just returning from a boring conference instead of a full-blown vacation affair. She rang the bell once, twice, waited, then pulled out her phone. A text came through about a minute later. "Elise, Logan, I'm outside. Can we please talk?" I didn't answer. I didn't even switch screens. I just watched as she checked the doorknob, found it locked, and tried the passcode. Didn't work. She tried again. Slower this time. Fewer digits. Maybe she thought I'd left the code as some sentimental gesture. I hadn't. After the third failed attempt, she stepped back and looked directly into the camera like she was hoping to see me through it. The mask cracked for just a second. That controlled face dropped into something closer to panic. Not loud, not dramatic, just the soft horror of realizing the door you thought was yours no longer recognizes you. She stood there a while. 10 minutes. Maybe more. Then she left. Didn't call. Didn't text. She just disappeared. But I knew that wouldn't last. The next day, Julia filed the paperwork. Served it through a process server who found Elise at her yoga studio, mid-downward dog. Apparently, she screamed. The server described it to Julia as a sound somewhere between a banshee and a teapot. Her instructor asked her to leave halfway through class. Now, that should have been enough. But no, Elise had to make it messier. That night, she tried to ambush me at my office. I was leaving late, walking to my car when I saw her waiting by the hood, arms folded, that suitcase still in tow like she thought maybe I'd roll the credits early and beg her back. She always had this habit of believing her return was a gift. "Logan," she said, her voice soft, layered with that familiar weaponized sadness. "We need to talk." I unlocked my door but didn't get in. About what? How Greek sunsets pair best with betrayal and stolen credit. "That's not fair," she said, stepping forward. "You don't know the whole story." "No," I replied, "but I know the best parts. Like how you lied about Seattle, used my card for your vacation, and tagged along with a man who signs his name with peace signs. Dylan, right? Or is it Dill? Hard to tell with guys who use avocado oil as cologne." Her face twisted. "You don't understand. I wasn't trying to hurt you." "But you did," I said simply. "And the worst part? You thought I wouldn't find out." She opened her mouth, but I held up a finger. "Elise, you don't get to turn this into some emotional scrapbook of things we used to be. You made a choice. A clear, deliberate choice. And I made mine." "I made a mistake," she said, eyes glassy now. "I got caught up in something stupid. But I don't want to lose everything." "Oh," I said, smiling slightly. "You already did. You just haven't opened the mail yet." She blinked. "You're actually divorcing me?" "The papers are filed. And your name's off the lease." "Oh," and I called the airline. "Turns out you added miles to my frequent flyer account. So thanks for the free trip. I'm thinking Iceland. Solo." Her voice cracked. "I don't understand how you can be so cold." "Because I was warm for too long," I said. "And you used it to burn me." She stood there a second longer, still expecting something, an apology, a fight, a final dramatic kiss. But all I gave her was silence and the sound of my car door closing. As I drove away, she vanished in the rear view again. Smaller this time. Just a dot in the distance. Elise always cared about appearances. Image was her oxygen. If her betrayal had stayed private, she might have managed to survive it. But I made sure it didn't. A week after the papers were filed, I sent one anonymous email. It went to her office. Subject line: "You should know who's representing your brand on international soil." Attached were screenshots, her tagged in the Santorini post, wrapped around Dylan like a souvenir. The irony? She was the lead on a loyalty campaign. You can't make this stuff up. HR looped in upper management. And just like that, Elise's spotless corporate halo developed a very public crack. She wasn't fired, they're too smart for that, but they quietly reassigned her. No more client-facing roles. No more travel. No more power lunches and expensive heels. Word spread fast. So Elise did what people like her always do: damage control. She told mutual friends we were growing apart, and that I lashed out irrationally. But the receipts said otherwise. People stopped responding to her texts. Group chats went quiet. Even her mother, who once called me a bit boring but dependable, reached out to ask if I was okay. You know you've really burned the bridge when your own mother calls your ex. Now Dylan, bless his oblivious heart, thought he was about to step into a ready-made life. He thought Elise was bringing the good china and a husband-shaped vacancy he could slide right into. Instead, he inherited a woman with a tarnished name, a social circle evaporating faster than her credibility, and the cherry on top, a very expensive lawsuit. See, while I was married to Elise, we had an agreement. Anything purchased on our joint accounts over $1,000 needed both our signatures. That hotel? The spa? The flights? All billed under our marital card. I didn't press criminal charges. I filed a civil suit for fraud and misuse of marital funds. Dylan, being the charming accessory he is, was listed as a complicit party. Now I didn't expect a big payday. What I wanted and what I got was inconvenience. Court appearances. Fees. A mark on their record. Stress. The slow erosion of their champagne-soaked fantasy. They were so busy hiding from subpoenas and explaining past decisions to lawyers, they barely noticed they weren't smiling in each other's photos anymore. Elise eventually tried the apology route. She sent a letter, handwritten, oddly formal. In it, she blamed confusion, loneliness, timing. Said she regretted hurting me. Said she hoped one day I'd forgive her. I mailed her back a key. It wasn't to the apartment that ship sank with the Greece trip. It was to a storage unit on the edge of town. Inside, every box I'd packed for her. All of it. The mugs. The photos. Her favorite cardigan she always stole from my side of the closet. Taped to the front of the largest box was a note. You took what you needed. This is what you left. She never replied. 6 months passed. I renovated the apartment. New furniture. New art. I took a solo trip to Iceland. Stood under the northern lights, wrapped in silence and cold, and laughed out loud like a man freshly rebuilt. I started running again. I adopted a dog, a mutt named Radar, who barks at leaf blowers and sleeps like he's never had a bad dream. I even started seeing someone. Not serious yet. Just light. Honest. One night, I passed by the old frame quote I kept above the mantel. Some people leave, and that's the best part of their contribution. But I replaced it with a new one. Survival isn't the end. Reinvention is. Now, I promised you revenge. And up until now, we've danced around it. Tactical wins, quiet slams, legal jabs. But the final move? That was personal. I mailed Elise a wedding invitation. Not mine, obviously. I'm not that dramatic. It was fake, designed by a friend who does graphic work. The card was elegant, gilded, and addressed from Logan and Naomi, a made-up name, a made-up woman. It listed a wedding in Italy, beautiful vineyard, sunset vows, a guest list, intimate and full of love. Inside the card, written by hand. Thank you for setting me free. You were never the destination, just the detour. A little theatrical? Maybe. But some art is just for the artist.